I'm not really the sharpest knife in the drawer, but whenever you bring Satan into the equation, I think you're bringing religion into it, aren't you? And here's the other problem. You cannot separate religion from race when it comes to Islam. It is woven into the fabric of the culture. It is woven into the fabric of the race. It is woven into the fabric of the ideology and the belief system that is so ingrained within these people that it is inseparable and you cannot make the distinction. In other words, if the Muslims were not, if they were not that race, they wouldn't be Muslims. Can I say it that way? I mean, it's like this. In America, we say, well, you know, this was a great Christian nation at one time, and, you know, you interview the average person on the street, and what are they going to say? Oh, yeah, I believe in God. I mean, you know what the percentage is of professing Christians in the United States of America? I realize it's declining, but it's a pretty high number. And so we were known as, and really in some respects are still known as, a Christian nation. In other words, American is synonymous with Christian, see? So there you have the marriage between the race and the religion, if you will. But in our political correctness, we will never acknowledge either. We'll say peace and security, and they'll say war and destruction. And that's why I believe we will see this prophecy find its fulfillment in the not too distant future. The second one I want to look at, and again, these are not in any order, nor are they any predictions. I am certainly not making any predictions like this is going to happen in the year 2010. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to be able to say, hey, the Lord's coming this year. That's my hope, but it's not my prediction. He could, but we don't know the day or the hour. I think that global economies will continue to decline, and we could see them even going bankrupt. You know, it was really astonishing to me how that when Dubai almost collapsed, that there was this conspicuous silence amongst not just the economic, world, but across the board. If you know anything about Dubai, this is Dubai? Almost collapsed financially? MoneyNews.com, in their article, had the headline, Dubai debacle just tip of iceberg. Uber bear investor and gloom, boom, and doom report. I like that one. Editor Mark Faber says Dubai world's debt problems are just the tip of the iceberg. It's a reminder that governments can default. Eventually, I suppose a lot of governments will be bust, including the U.S., Faber says. Nothing has been resolved. It's just been postponed. The ultimate crisis will not just bankrupt the banking system and the financial system as happened in 2008, it will bankrupt governments. Now, this ties into a third prophecy that we need to watch here at home, and that is the U.S. dollar continuing to decline and even collapsing. Again, MoneyNews.com, Sarkozy. Dollar must be stripped of global power. Now, before I read an excerpt from this article, I want to say to you, by design, there is a campaign in place to get the U.S. dollar out of the way, because it's in the way. There is a design, by design, to destroy the U.S. dollar. Now, hear what this article has to say. Economic debate at the global level must focus on the gulf between levels of the euro and the dollar, French President Nicolas Sarkozy said as he vowed to protect domestic industry in his speech to businesses. Amid recent calls to revamp the global monetary system to reduce the dominant role of the dollar, Sarkozy said that disparities between the two currencies posed a considerable problem. I will bring up this problem of monetary disparities all through the year, he said in a New Year's speech to workers and business leaders in Western France. If you're producing in the Eurozone and selling in the dollar zone with a dollar that's falling and a euro that's rising, how are you supposed to make up for this deficit in competitiveness? The government has said Sarkozy would propose, watch this, a new international monetary organization which better reflects today's world to the G20 in 2011 when France holds the G20 presidency. The dollar has been the linchpin of the world financial system since 1944 when the Bretton Woods Conference agreed on a pegged exchange rate system with the dollar as the effective reserve currency. Although this collapsed in 1971 when the dollar stopped being convertible into gold and gave way to the currency model of freely floating currencies, the dollar has remained the favored international currency, close quote, not for long. It is very likely that we will see the US dollar eliminated as that world currency or having that favored international status. Now here's the question. How does global economies declining and the US dollar collapsing play out in the prophetic program? Here's the short answer. This must come to pass that the end might come. In other words, world's economies and governments must fall. Why? Because when world economies and governments fall, it then becomes the catalyst for the Antichrist to rise. He will implement a new world order and he will force people to accept this new global, international, one world economic system, without which they will not be able to buy or sell. One prophecy writer said, Scripture tells us of the establishment of a new world order by the Antichrist in the last days. Indeed, the devil must have a dictatorial form of government if he is to rule the world. It is being slowly implemented in our governments through legislation and in our churches with a new spirituality, which, by the way, we're going to talk about, Lord willing, here soon, another prophecy that we need to keep our eyes on this year, and that has to do with the church. The church. The Laodicean church. The last church. The lukewarm church. He goes on to say, with a new spirituality until ultimately it will be in the hands of an elite, of an intelligent, politically connected, religious-minded people in league with the Antichrist. Make no mistake about it. The stage is being set. All the pieces of the prophetic puzzle are put in place. And when the Antichrist is revealed and when he comes on the scene, he will control the world with a one-world government, a one-world economy, and a one-world religion, collectively, simultaneously. And that's what Revelation says. Revelation 13, verses 16 through 18. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the number of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number. His number is 666. Do you know that the technology already exists to implement a global system whereby everybody could receive a chip implant